Those who have not yet practiced, please make sure you practice all the things. Today I'll discuss what is Redux middleware. Fine. Let's understand what is Redux middleware and how to use it. Okay. Basic Redux store enables to perform synchronous updates only. If you want to update anything synchronously, then we don't need any middleware. Simply by using Redux, we can achieve that. But when we use Redux middleware, what extra benefit we get? Middleware, middleware Redux extends the store's capabilities. Redux middleware acts as a medium to interact with dispatched actions before they reach the reducer. Middleware helps with logging. If you want to log some messages, error reporting, making asynchronous request. In a Redux application, if you want to log something, you want to report the error, you want to make asynchronous request, for these all use cases, we have to use middleware. What is middleware and where it fits in our Redux architecture? We know that every Redux application will have a store where the data will be stored. View will get the data from store and render. From view, we dispatch the action. When we dispatch the action in plain Redux application, what used to happen? Every action directly used to go to reducer. But now, when we use a middleware, that middleware sits in between action and reducer. Whenever we trigger any action, the action will go to middleware, the action will go to middleware, then from middleware it will go to reducer. Then from reducer, reducer will go and update the store. Extra thing is this middleware. This middleware came in between action and reducer. If I show you how middleware looks like and where it fits, Redux middleware. This is how Redux middleware looks like. Earlier, what used to happen? Action directly used to interact with the reducers. Okay, but with middleware, what happens? Yeah. So middleware, when action is dispatched, when action is dispatched by view, in between dispatch and reducer, there will be middleware. This is where the middleware works. Our action will be given to middleware. Middleware will return another action. Yeah, and this makes more sense. Yes. Store gives the data to view. View dispatches action. Action will go to middleware. Middleware will fetch the data from API. Let's say we are fetching the data from one API. Then in middleware, we will fetch the data from API. Once that fetching of data is done, then middleware triggers another action. Middleware triggers another action. That action will go to reducer. Okay. And reducer will update the store. Is it clear? This flow is clear? In the last example, what did we do? We had our local array, right? Isn't it? What if we have to fetch the data from API? Then we need middleware.
So using fetch also we used to do, right?
Okay. In the market, we have different libraries, different middlewares. One of the most popular middleware name is Thunk. Thunk is one of the most used middleware. There are two most used middlewares. One is Thunk, one is Saga. These are the two most used middlewares used in React Redux application. Let's start with Thunk. What is Thunk? Thunk are the standard approach for writing asynchronous logic in Redux application. In Redux application, if you want to write asynchronous logic, we go with Thunk. Redux thunk allows to call action creators, which then returns a function instead of an action object. In plain Redux application, whenever you call action creator returns you action object. But in thunk, the action creator will not return you one action object, rather it will return you one function. This function receives the stores dispatch method, which is then used to dispatch the regular synchronous actions within the function's body once the asynchronous operation is completed. Yeah. In thunk, what happens? We will call the action creator. The action creator, instead of returning action object, it will return one function. This feature of thunk redux also allows us to dispatch something after certain conditions are met. Yeah, we can conditionally dispatch action. We can dispatch action asynchronously. Redux thunk allows us to dispatch special function called thunk. The one we dispatch, that is nothing but called thunk. Okay, fine. Let's understand one example now. It's the time to understand one example. Okay, to understand one example of thunk, let me do one thing. Let me open one example.
Pero sí, ojalá la puedes para no. Le dije, le dije. প্রথমে ওপরে যদি কোডটা স্টার্ট করলে গিয়ে সেটা
Okay,
খুঁজছে না আমার ইয়েতে অফিসে ল্যাপটপে কেউ বলতে পারছে না কেউ যখন বেশ করলাম চার জিবিতে বলে এনভায়রনমেন্টে বলে গিয়ে পা খেঁচিয়ে বসে পাত্তা ফাঁকি করে ওখানে বসলো তারপর করলো স্ল্যাগ
okay. So this is one example. Here, what are we doing? We have a button fetch products. We have a button fetch products. On click of this button, we are making a call to API. That API returns the data and we render the data on the page. To achieve this functionality, what did we do? How did we use the middleware? Where did we use the middleware? Let us understand. In every Redux application, what are the common things? Can you tell me how we will understand from where we will start? We will definitely have a store, right?
Yes, we'll definitely have a source. Then for source, we need to create slice, and for each slice, we should be having initial value reducers.
Okay. So I have a folder called Redux. In Redux, I have a file called store.js. In this store.js, when we don't have middleware, what we used to do, we used to write const my store is equal to create store, and we used to pass the reducer name, right?
Yes.
Now we need one middleware also. We need one middleware. We need one middleware. The middleware name is thunk. To use the middleware, what are we doing? What are we doing? This create store method takes two arguments. One is the reducer, one is apply middleware thunk. Apply middleware thunk. If you want to understand, if you want to understand how did you get to know, you can go to the official website and you can see how to use this. Okay, so we can create a middleware, we can create a store along with the middleware.
এগুলো অফিস আমি পড়াতে পারতাম
When we create a store, const store equal to create store takes the reducer and apply middleware. Apply middleware. Okay. So what are we doing here? Let's understand. So while creating the store, this compose enhancer. What is this compose enhancer? This is used only to make sure that when we use Redux toolkit, right? Redux dev tool, it will show you how the actions are being fired. For that, we use compose enhancer. Otherwise, we can directly write apply middleware thunk. Fine. So try to compare how we used to write plain Redux example and how are we writing Redux with middleware. In Redux with middleware, in the store file, this extra line should be added. Second, after store, let's go to reducer. The reducer name is product reducer, product reducer, product reducer. In product reducer, what are we doing? We have initial state. This is reducer and we have done nothing. Nothing. There is only one action. If action type is set products, do this. That's all. This is the simplest producer. There is no change here at all. Look at this file and let me know if you have any question.
কি হলো? এটা তো নরমাল ইউজার হচ্ছে।
No question?
This is the normal reducer, right? That we have learned earlier, correct?
Yeah. Normal reducer and this reducer, there is no difference. Even if you use middleware, you will find no difference. Then actions. In actions, yes.
What is action dot payload, sir? In reducer, what is action dot payload?
Action dot payload. Action is one object. Action object has 2-3 fields. One field is action dot type. One is action dot payload. In payload, we will get all the product information. Yeah. So this is our store file. This is our reducer. This is our action, product actions. In product action, what are we doing? Please understand. We have two action creators. Earlier, what we used to have? We used to have only one action creator. That action creator used to return us one action object. But here, what are we doing? Please understand. We have one fetch products function. We have one fetch products function. This fetch products function is async action creator. This is synchronous action creator. So if somebody will call fetch products, what it is doing, please understand. If somebody will call fetch products, this is the middleware, this extra logic we are writing. When somebody calls fetch products, instead of returning one action object, it is not returning an action object. Rather, it is returning one function. What it is returning? It is returning one function. And the function that it returns, this function is technically called thunk. That function is technically called thunk. This function takes the store's dispatch method. Okay. Dispatch method. It waits for API to return the data. It waits for API to return the data. Once the API responds to the data, this function dispatches the action actually. So this is another action creator. Set products is another action creator. This action creator takes the products data and returns the actual action object. Here we have type and payload. Do you understand? If we don't have middleware from HTML, we used to directly call this action creator, right? Set products or add employee or delete employee, toggle data, like that. We used to directly call this action creator from HTML, right? But now what will happen? From view, we we will call this action creator the async action creator. That action creator, fetch products, is a action creator. This fetch products will return a function. It returns a function, and that function takes dispatch as argument, makes a call to API, gets the data, and once the data is ready, it dispatches the actual action object. To get the actual action object, it calls another action creator called set products. That set products returns object. That object is dispatched here. After this, it will go to reducer. So whenever you call fetch products in UI, whenever we click this button, the control will go to fetch products, fetch products. In fetch products, it is not returning action object. It is returning one function. In that function, we are waiting for data to come. Then we are dispatching the actual action object. Yeah. After this, we will understand the component. If we go to component, products component, product listing component. In this product listing component, what are we doing? Product listing. This is product listing page. In product listing, we have fetch data method. When we click on this, it is calling fetch data. Fetch data is calling fetch products. Fetch data is calling fetch products. Fetch products will return one function. That function we are dispatching. And when that function is resolved, when that function fetches the data from API, the actual action object is triggered. And we have a product component. In product component, we are subscribing the store. To subscribe the store, we are writing use selector state.product reducer.products. We get the products data, we iterate and we show it here. Is it clear?
Sir, in case we are only displaying products just without clicking that button, how to do that? As like just product list. I need to display only product list from fetch API.
Okay, in that case, in product listing, somehow you have to call this fetch data method. When will you call this fetch data method?
When
will you call?
Not on loading only.
On load. What is the lifecycle method for that? Sorry?
Use effect.
Use effect. In use effect, you can simply call this.
Okay. Okay.
Is it clear?
So here, this fetch products is making a click action. That is a function which is here. Where in the function we write dispatch of fetch products, right? So. So instead of ideally we make a API call, but here we are trying to make a dispatch call. Is that
so from view, this is one action, right? When we click on this button,
correct.
What is the job of this HTML file? To trigger one action, to dispatch one action, right? But is it a synchronous action or asynchronous action? Asynchronous action,
Yes.
right? So how we used to do? We will call a action creator. Whatever that action creator will return, that we will dispatch, right? We used to
Used
do
to
it
do it
earlier
earlier
also.
also. Yes.
So this
So
time
this time
also we are
also we are
doing the
doing the
same
same
thing
thing.
here. Here in product listing, nothing special. We are calling fetch products action creator when that action creator is returning something that we are dispatching. Now, if we go to product fetch products action, this fetch products action is not returning one action object. Then what it is returning? It returns one function. What is that function? Technically, that function is called thunk. What it returns, right? It returns a thunk. It returns a thunk. Okay. And this thunk takes dispatch, makes a call to API, and whenever the data is ready, it dispatches another action with the action object, proper action object.
Okay. So here the parameter, I mean, function of its dispatch, right? So
Mhm.
what is going there? I mean, inside that dispatch in the sense
Actually,
fetch
we can
products.
yeah, I'll show you. Const action object is equal to fetch products. We are calling fetch products. It will return me one action object that I will dispatch here. Did you understand this?
Yes, yes.
The same thing is done in product actions also. So here it is calling once the data is available, once the data is available, again it will get action object. So it will call set products method. It will call set products method by passing the data. So set products method will return one action object. That action object we are dispatching here. Got it, na?
Yeah, okay.
It is kind of from HTML, we are calling fetch products action creator, and this fetch products action creator is calling dispatch, calling set products method, getting the actual action object, the synchronous action object, and dispatches.
Okay, okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah, so clear, but what's the advantage of like making another extra layer and making it more complicated? Like it was good, na, without that also.
See, whenever you have synchronous thing, you can do it. But whenever you don't have synchronous, you have asynchronous thing, can your HTML make sure, let's say from here only directly you want to trigger one action. So when you call a function, will it be able to return you one action object? In that action object, do you have type and product information? If you call this method, do you think it will return you directly payload and type? Okay, instead of calling fetch products, if I call set products, it will directly give me the action object that I need, right?
Hmm.
Hmm? But
Yes.
set products, do you think this set products will give you the action type and payload? In payload, there will be one array with 30 things. No, right?
Okay.
Can we? No, right?
I did not understand. Can you repeat once again, sir?
What I'm saying, we are calling a action creator
Hmm.
and expecting one action object from action creator immediately.
Yes.
But do you think if we call set products, do we have the products information? We don't have, right?
No, we don't have.
Hmm. We don't have here, right?
No, we
Then
don't
how
have.
can we call set products and expect one action object? In that action object, we will have type and payload. We will not have, right?
We will call the API na first. We will not construct in that way. Like now, the way we have constructed, we need to get that and then set it in that way. I mean, in order to make it middleware way. But without middleware also, though, we used to make the API call, asynchronous call, get the data, and populate also. There was we were good na to make the call.
We used to do that, but we didn't used to store in the state object, right? Now we have to dispatch one action object. That action object should hold our data and what type of action we are triggering.
Okay, okay, got it. I mean, I understand the flow, but that is again calling the thing. At the end of the day, same thing is only happening. Another layer we are adding, thunk that you are telling. Yeah.
Yes, because it is asynchronous.
Okay.
When we have the data, when we have the payload, and when we have the action type, we don't need a middleware at all. We just
Okay.
pass the data and we just pass the action type to the action creator. It will give us the action object, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
here,
Got it.
before triggering the action, we should have the data.
Based on that, we can perform another thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other question?
फोन अगर फायर कर रहे जो
Hope you got it. If there is no more question, we'll move forward.
क्या होता है वीडियो
Okay, so this is thunk example.
सारा बोल
This example I'll share with you. You can go and take a look how it is done. Like thunk, we have another middleware called Saga. So these two are most commonly used middlewares, thunk and Saga. If we try to understand how they are different, what are the similarities and how they are different? Redux Thunk and Redux Saga are both middleware libraries for Redux. In Redux application, we can alternatively use, we can either use Redux Thunk or we can use Redux Saga. Redux middleware is code that intercepts the actions coming into store via the dispatch method. Yeah, we know that. Okay, so our intention is to compare Thunk and Saga. Redux Saga, in comparison to Redux Thunk, is that you can more easily test your asynchronous data flow. Looks like in Redux Saga, we can easily test our asynchronous data flow, how the data goes. Also, Redux Saga allows to express complex application logic as pure functions called Saga. So it is a pure function. That pure function, the way here we call it as thunk, right? This is called thunk. This function that we are returning is called thunk. The same way in Saga, it returns a pure function. That pure function is called Saga.
क्लास को
These
मैंने
pure
बोला
functions are desirable from a testing standpoint because they are predictable and repeatable, which makes them relatively easy to test.
वहाँ तो ये लिखते
These
हैं
pure
वो
functions
लिखते हैं
returned by Saga is better than thunk because if we have a pure function, we can pass the required input and we can expect the required output. Sagas are implemented through special functions called generator functions. So if you open any Saga example, you will find that they are using generator functions. I'll show you one Saga example. Even I didn't use Saga much. That is why I don't have any example also. But I can show you one online example. React middleware Saga example.
These are already used or you need
No,
to.
it is widely used. They want to see us first.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go through this tutorial, it has step-by-step explanation. It has step-by-step explanation. You can follow the steps and you can add Saga into your application. Yes, you can see this is a generator function, right? This is a generator function. So internally, Saga is using generator function. Hope you know this, right? What is generator function in JavaScript?
No, sir, don't know. Sir, what is that? I don't know. Just 1 minute if you explain.
It's very difficult to explain in 1 minute, but yes. So in generator, what happens? We can. I'll show you quickly one or two examples.
কেউই জানে না, কেউ উত্তর দিচ্ছে না, তেমন ভাবতে সবাই জানে। এটা দেখে নতুন জিনিস একটা স্টার দেওয়া ফাংশন রাজধানী আমাদের দেখুন ও যাওয়া সিটি প্রোগ্রাম খুলে ফেলেছে, ও যাওয়া সিটি সব আছে, দেখ এবার ইন্টারেস্ট হয়ে যাবে। আস্তে আস্তে
Yeah.
স্টার।
Okay. So what is the normal function and what is generator function? A generator function can return or can produce a sequence of results instead of a single value. If you think about a normal function can return only one value. But a generator function is a special type of function which can return or which can produce multiple values. Function star generator function. This is a generator function. This is not a plain function. And if somebody will call this function, it will print console.log something, then it will return hello. Again, it will print something, it will return world. So if somebody will call generator function, it will print, this will be executed fast. After this line, it will return hello. It will print this, then it will return world. So this function has ability to return two values. How to use it? It's not as simple as plain function. When we call this function, when we call this generator function, it will return one generator object. We have to say generator object dot next dot value. Next means this yield will be called. When we say next, again the second yield will be returned. When you say next, there is no yield. We will get undefined here. This is how we create generator function. This is how we call the generator function.
Okay. Okay, looks interesting. Yeah.
We have a function func1. This func1 returns three values: yield, yield, yield. Yield is nothing but similar to return. I'm not saying same as return, but it is similar like return. So we can iterate also. We can iterate this. We can say, we can do like this: const val of generator object print val. We will get all the values returned by this generator just by writing a for loop. Suppose you want to create a generator function which will give you first 10 natural number, we can do that. Suppose you want to write three API calls, this generator function is making a call to three API calls. Okay. Let's see how it is done. Async function generator function. It's a generator function because of the star, not because of the name. This is a generator function. This is waiting for first promise to resolve, then returning. Waiting for second promise to resolve, then returning. Waiting for third promise to resolve, then returning. Okay, this is how to write generator function. Now the person who is consuming, how the person who is trying to consume will consume. We are calling generator function. When we call generator function, it will return one generator object. From that generator object, to get 1111 value from that generator object, we just have to write for wait, wait for one value from this generator object, print that. Wait for the second value from generator object and print. Wait for the third value from generator object and print. See? So we can write for wait also like this.
Yes, I understand. And thank you for explaining.
Yeah. Like that, even Saga is using generator function.
তো অন্য মানে একটা ফাংশন একটা রিটার্ন করা যায় না, রাইট? ও দু তিনটে রিটার্ন করতে পারবে ফাংশন। একটা করে আউটপুট পাচ্ছি, এটা করছি, আউটপুট পাচ্ছি।
Okay, and other things will remain same only. See here also we are calling create store, the reducer, then apply middleware. In apply middleware, we are passing saga middleware. Saga middleware dot run the saga. To make a synchronous call, to make a synchronous call, what are we doing? So this is counter. This counter is calling on increment on decrement. How that method is written? On increment. On increment, it is calling action increment. How that action is written? Yeah. Increment async. This is the saga. Increment async is the function which is returning action object type increment. Yeah, I don't have any example for saga, but you can check this.
ওকে স্যার।
Yeah. So with this, we conclude our Redux topic.
খুব বাজলো।
But until unless you practice the things, it will never be clear. Even if I explain this Redux topic for 15 days, it will not be clear until unless you practice this. So whatever we discussed should be fine to understand the minimum things from Redux, and you should be practicing that products application also. Okay, fine. You practice Redux example, and if you have any question, do let me know. I will be happy to explain one more example only if you come up with some questions. If you don't have any question, yeah, we are done with Redux. Next, React hooks. Okay, we know what is React hook. We had discussed React hook in the past also, but I want to understand again. Can you please give me a background or history? What is the need of React? Okay, sorry. What is use state? Then how class components used to work when there was no hooks available in functional component, why people were heavily using class component, why not functional component, then how functional component became powerful with all these hooks. Can you give me a background? Can somebody explain?
That is when a
Before
single message
having the hooks like before initially the functional component was stateless. It was a dumb component where we used to not have any state changes or logic there. We used to only show up on the view. There is no state to change over there. So whereas in the class component we used to specify this dot state in order to access the state, and whenever we try to change the state also, we have to mention a component, I mean a function up there and bind it to the place where you are trying to call on click or whatever action we are trying to change. Whereas in the functional, we did not even, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think we have the state also to manage anything there. In the, I mean, in the time where when there was no hooks.
Yeah, that's true. So as Neha told, when there were no hooks, functional components were not that powerful like class components. We were not able to manage state in functional components. Hence, people were using functional components only to present something in UI. We were not using functional component to hold some data, right? With this hooks introduction in functional
Yeah.
components, now we can manage the state. Functional components are equally powerful like class components now, and we can manage the state. We can add lifecycle hook. Everything can be done in functional components. Yes. Why its name is hook, how to use it, let's understand. Though we have already used couple of them, yeah, still the remaining hooks we will understand. A hook is a special function that lets you hook into React feature. Use state is a hook that lets you add React state to functional component. So when we didn't have use state, we were not able to manage the state of the component in functional components. With the addition of use state, now we are able to manage state of a component.
Process.
Hooks are a new addition React 16.8. In React 16.8, we got
Stateless
hooks.
hook.
Before 16.8, we didn't
আচ্ছা
have hooks.
ইনফ্যাক্ট আগে শুধু কোথায় করা যেত ক্লাস
React
কম্পোনেন্ট
hooks allow to use state, lifecycle features, and other features without writing a class. Even in functional component, we can achieve all these things. React has a lot of built-in hooks. React has a lot of built-in hooks. Use state, use effect, use ref, use context, use reducer, use callback, use memo, use ID. These all are predefined hooks we have in React. And out of this, I think we have almost discussed almost everything we discussed. Use state we know, use effect we know, use ref we know, use context we know, use reducer we don't know. Maybe these three things we don't know. Use reducer, use callback, use memo. These three things we don't know, right?
User ID also.
Use ID also we don't know. So we can say first four we know, last four we don't know. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. And along with all these predefined hooks, we can also create our own hook to reuse stateful behavior between different components. We can also create our own hook. We will also discuss that how to create our own hook. Okay. Rules of hook. Rules of hook. Whenever we are using a hook, what all rules we should follow? Only call hooks at the top level. Don't call the hooks inside loop, inside condition, or inside nested functions. So I'll show you one example. Yeah. So if you look at here,
Then the hook call
this use state, we should we are using this at the top level. We are not supposed to write a if else condition, and inside if else condition we should not do. If something is true, use this. If something is true, do this. Else else do this. No, don't do like this. Only call the hooks at the top level. Top level means inside your component top level. Don't call the hooks inside a loop, inside conditions, or inside nested functions. Only call the hooks from React functional components. Don't call the hooks from regular JavaScript functions. Regular JavaScript functions means suppose we have suppose we have a folder called util. Inside util, suppose I have a file called, suppose inside utils I have a file called math.js. math.js. In math.js, suppose I have normal functions. Function add, function add, huh, function sub.
মিষ্টি গাছটা খাওয়াবে না তো
Huh. Look at this file and tell me, is it a component or this is a plain JavaScript file?
It's a plain JavaScript.
Plain JavaScript.
But if you look at here, export to default function protected. Okay. If you look at here, this is a component, right? These are components. Inside our functional components, how will you understand whether it is component or not? If it is a component, it will return some HTML to render, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
And if we try to compare this file with this file, this is just a file. Export function add, export function sub. This is a file with two functions. They are plain JavaScript functions. They are not functional components. Even though this is also a plain function, it returns some HTML content to render. This is a component. If it is a component, then only we will write hook. If it is not a component, if it is a plain function, don't write use state here. Okay? Understood? Yeah. React built-in hooks can be called from custom hooks. Whenever we create a custom hook, our custom hook can invoke React built-in hooks also. These are the rules we should follow. These are the rules we should follow while creating a hook, while using a hook. Please remember these points. Now coming to the examples, how to use state, we have discussed a lot of examples. I don't want to discuss it again. Use effect, we have discussed it many times. No need to discuss this again. Yeah. Use state, use effect, use ref, use context, all those things are discussed. Okay, fine. Use memo. Did we discuss use memo? I feel like we discussed. Maybe we didn't, right? Looks like we didn't discuss, right? Use memo and use callback.
Yes, sir.
We discussed memo
Memo.
component, but not this hook specifically.
Yeah. No, this is different. Use memo is different. Memo component is different. This use memo is different. I'll explain. Use memo and use callback. Both the things I'll discuss. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So using Redux, we were creating using Redux, a different library. We were managing the state of our application. Now we can manage the state of our component using use reducer. Let's talk about use reducer hook. There is a reducer, there is a hook whose name is use reducer. Let's understand how to use reducer hook. What is use reducer and how to use it. This is a hook. Okay. Use reducer is a hook convenient for dealing with more complex state changes in React components. If you have a simple counter example and you don't want to use Redux in plain React component, how it will look like? It will look like this. Counter. Oh, what was that? State demo 1. Huh. State demo 2. Huh. So this is one plain example, React example to implement counter functionality, right? Here we have not used Redux. If we have complex use case, let's say employee CRUD or something like that, we don't have Redux implemented in our project. Using use reducer, we can achieve that. The CRUD functionality we can achieve using use reducer. Use reducer borrows some theory from Redux. Yes, it borrows theory from Redux. The concept of reducer, action, dispatch, everything, it borrows the concept from Redux. Use reducer hook accepts two arguments. Use reducer will take reducer and initial state. And this is how it looks like. The use reducer hook returns the current state and dispatch method. Use reducer, pass the reducer function, pass the initial data. It will give you the state and the dispatch function. If you ask me a question, okay, if we have use reducer, then do you think there is no need of Redux? Because use reducer is from React, right? We are not dependent on any other library. But Redux is a different library. Do you think use reducer can completely replace Redux? Do you think so? Or what is your understanding?
Use reducer will be used for every component. What I'm guessing, and that is a centralized one.
Yeah. So use reducer can be used to manage the state of a component, but Redux can be used to manage the state of the application. Understood, na? Use reducer cannot replace Redux. Redux has centralized state. One state will be used by multiple components. It adds more decoupling. We can have separate action file, reducer file, store file, and many components can use them. It has middlewares, thunks, saga, logger. It has lot of middlewares. We can use them. Actions can only hit one store. All the actions will go and hit only one store. Yeah, definitely we know the action will go to reducer. The reducer will go and talk to store, but it is one store. It is more suitable for big projects. These are the benefits of redox. And use reducer, how use reducer is related to redox? Yes, it is used for local state. Local state means component level state. If you want to manage component level state, go with use reducer. Along with use reducer, you can use other hooks like use state, use effect. You can combine multiple hooks. No extra library is required. We can have multiple stores. Okay. Actually, reducers that can act as store. Every reducer can have different store. So we can have multiple stores. We can have multiple stores, and it is more suitable for small projects where we want to manage the state only at component level. If you want to manage the state only at component level, go with use reducer. If you want to manage the state across the project, go with redox. Okay. Come again. You are not audible.
In Redux, will we have only one story?
Yeah, we will have only one store. One store. Now let us understand uh, use reducer
One
example.
question, Sanjay.
Yes,
Like
please.
we are using already use state, right? So use state, whatever the function it will return from that, we can manage the state for a particular component. So
Hmm.
on top of that, why we need reducer then? Use reducer.
If you have see, if you have complex use case like let's say CRUD application or toggle to do application, there what all things we have add to do, we have delete from add, delete, edit, toggle. So there are a lot of things we have, right? If we don't use reducer, if we don't use reducer, what happens? We have to write lot of functions here, right? If I click on this, do this, do this, do this, at the end update the state, right?
Yes.
Now here we have only one action increment. What if we are implementing one CRUD application in one component? Then we will end up with how many functions here? Add employee will be one function.
Yeah.
Add
Then
to
delete
do,
will be one.
edit to do,
Hmm.
delete to do, toggle to do. Maybe if we have short functionality, short to do, short to do, we will end up writing 8 to 10 functions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of doing that, we can have use reducer, and that too uh, those who are already comfortable with Redux. And if you know the Redux functionalities, it will be easy for you to implement that example using use reducer.
Okay, so you are saying like for means if we have Redux, then we can manage actually Redux. Sometimes this all the state we are managing inside Redux stores only, right? So we won't
Hmm.
use reducer. So if we
If
have
Redux is already there in one project, no need to use reducer.
okay, okay. It's
Yeah.
just like context API means context also we are using like that same way, right?
If we use no context API is there to pass the data from parent component to child component.
Correct, correct.
From
Yeah.
yeah, but use reducer is there only
Will
for one component.
okay, it will not pass the data to another component. True.
No, no. But we can
But
also
both
combine,
things,
see,
both
we can also combine to achieve Redux functionality, right? In Redux, what happens? We have a centralized state, right? But in
yes,
use reducer, we don't have a centralized state, right?
yeah.
We have the state at the component level, right?
Correct.
If you ask me, what if I will declare my state variable at the top level and I will pass that data using context API? We can do that also. You know,
Okay.
people are saying or even we can say context API plus use
Reducer
reducer,
equal to redux.
use reducer is equal to Redux.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
once
you
we are using Redux, then we no need to think of these two. But if we
no
are
need to
not
think of
using,
this.
if we are not
Ha.
using for small projects, then context plus use reducer can solve our issue.
Correct. Because use reducer will help you to manage the state only inside the component. If you don't want to declare your variable only inside the component, better you declare the variable at the top level component, then pass that variable using context API. So it is kind of your variable is present at a central place, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do one thing. Let's stop here. Tomorrow we will discuss the example for use reducer. Tomorrow I will try to cover three things: use reducer, use memo, use callback. These three things are very important. Don't miss tomorrow's session at any cost. Use reducer, use memo, use callback. Three things I'll explain. See you tomorrow.
Hello, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Sir,
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
while developing employee CRUD, I got a few